Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Good morning. My name is and welcome everybody. We'll begin this morning's service with Sanlujo, which is on page 24 and 25 in the Purple Book, followed by Jusei Gei on page 93, but I'll tell you the page again to remind you.
Namanda, 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 Namanda. So 大集中説法 しく供養一切物不足習徳を願礼心上慢徳一三害を女分無下地ずらみ不詳願楽へり投資最小尊志願薬効果大聖の感動国書天に当人妙慶
Please stand for our first Gatha, Namawami Jabutsu, and remain on page 174 in the purple book for the reading of the scriptures on page 8. But the first one is 174.
Three Treasures, page 8. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in the spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we're able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Please be seated.
Now, Reverend Dennis, Reverend Jodo will share a Dharma message with us.
Namanda, 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 Namanda. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Okay, we have some different faces today, so it's nice to see people here today enjoying our live services. So really appreciate everyone taking this opportunity to be here to listen to the Dharma. And we've got a little break in the weather, so it's kind of nice to come out today. Today I have a different talk. I have ghost stories. Ghost stories. Okay. So kind of unusual to have a ghost story in our Buddhist tradition. People are thinking ghost stories. What happened to Sensei? So these are unusual stories. I share these with you, and they come from years and years connected to certain temples, certain areas of Japan, and so kind of surprising and amazing. So I have a couple stories, and they're a little bit connected. So in the first story, a very rainy night, and a shopkeeper was closing up his shop and putting things away, turning things down, and he heard this tapping, tap, 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 on the window. And he looked out and he saw this woman standing in the rain. She looked kind of sad, pathetic. So what's wrong with this lady? And so he opened the door. Can I help you? So one candy, please. And so even though the shop was closed, the shop owner felt sorry for this poor old woman. So he sold her the candy and she paid this coin. It's called 1 mon. Less than a yen, the lowest denomination coin you could have, very low. And so she gave her the candy and she disappeared into the night. Okay. So the next night, same thing happened, exact same time. Ta, ta, ta. And so she looks, and again, same lady, she looks just forlorn and clothing is tattered. 1 candy, please. And so she had the coin and gave it to her, and so he gave her the candy, and so she paid this 1 mon again, and just quietly left, and didn't know what happened to her, just kind of disappeared into the night, into the rain. And so this happened every night, for 6 nights this went on, exactly the same time, exactly the same kind of scenario. And then on the 7th night, the lady came again, looking so poorly. It's raining again, the same tap on the window. And she asked, "1 candy, please." But this time she didn't have a coin and had a handful of leaves, and tried to give the leaves to the shop owners. "I can't accept these leaves." So he wasn't going to give her the candy. So she took off her coat. "Please take this instead," and gave him her coat. And he didn't want it, protesting at first. No, I can't take your coat." And she insisted. Finally, he gave in and took her coat, gave her the 1 piece of candy. And so after all this happened for 7 nights, the only change was now he has this coat that she was wearing. And so the next day, a friend of his, a merchant from the next village, came in to stop in and say hello, see what's going on. And he told him this strange story. This lady kept coming 7 nights in a row. She came and asked for just 1 piece of candy. She looked so sad, and I'm not sure what to make of it. Just last night, she left this coat. It's hanging right over there. And so his friend, looked over there. So, "That's my friend's wife's coat. She died a week ago." And so, oh, wow. So they're wondering, what's this all about? So they went to the local temple and they asked the priest, told him this whole story, what's going on. And, the Jodo Shinshu priest kind of scolding them. We don't believe in superstitions and things, come on, let's go to the gravesite. I'll show you where this lady was buried. And so they went to the gravesite that, is connected to their temple. And so showing them, this is the grave, this is where the lady was placed. And clearly, they all could hear this baby crying from beneath the ground. And so they're all shocked. And so they uncovered the grave, and they could see the same lady that had come to the shop. And there was a newborn baby on her body crying, okay? And so they couldn't imagine what this was about. So they uncovered her and saw this living baby. So they took the baby and took it to the baby's family. And so eaten unwrapped candy that's there in the grave, and this is what the baby was eating for that week just to stay alive. And so they took the baby from the corpse, gave it to the family, and after they returned to recover the corpse, it looked like a very serene expression on the mother's face. And this visitor to the shop never came again. That's the end of this story. Okay? So, kind of spooky, huh? What do we make of such a story, right? So there's another similar story, more connected to Shinran Shonin, and a woman had died, had a very difficult childbirth, and so she passed away. And so they buried her body, but after that, she was tormented because of the way she passed away, and they saw this ghost at the temple, and it became kind of scary, creepy, annoying. People didn't want to go to the temple anymore. Nobody wanted to go to the temple, and because of this story, and because nobody's coming, they didn't have even a priest. So it's kind of like a abandoned temple that was haunted with this ghost that would come, and people were afraid to go there, right? So the people of the village didn't know what to make of it. They didn't know what to do with their temple. But Shinran Shonin himself had been passing by the village. So he stopped in and they told him this story that this temple is haunted and they don't know what to do, what to make of it. So Shinran Shonin, they asked, please help. And so he took the 3 Pure Land Sutras and he copied characters from the 3 Pure Land Sutras onto these pebbles, rocks. And he had a handful of pebbles and he buried them next to the grave. And as he buried them, the spirit lifted up from the ground and going to the west, the direction of the Pure Land, and changed into a bodhisattva, from a ghost, tormented ghost, into a bodhisattva, and never returned to haunt the temple again. So they were so appreciative that Shinran was there and was able to do this, that they had a temple, a comfortable temple again. Okay, so this is another something kind of story, right? So now let me give you the background to the story. A few months ago we had the IMOP students, right? A young man and a young lady had come and they sat here and joined the service with us, and then afterwards we went to the Enmanji temple together, and not only because I'm close to the Jodo Shinshu Center, but when the IMOP students, the visitors from Japan come, they have fun when Sharman and I show them around. So we took them to the Charles Schultz Museum, the Peanuts Museum up there in Santa Rosa, and we had a wonderful day after the service over there. And as we're driving around, I told them about previously, other IMOP student had come, and I was serving Idaho Oregon Temple, where Sharman is from, and I had invited Kohara Sensei from the Berkeley Temple to come to Idaho, Oregon as our guest speaker, okay? And he was taking care of another IMOP student at that time. So he was kind of tag along, so can I bring, Nanjo Sensei with me? So sure. And, they pay for his flight, they stay in the same room, so it was no added expense and just another face to enjoy having him visit our temple. And he was just a young kid, like these were kids, he had this punky hair and it looked like he just woke up and put on his robes, So who is this young kid, right? But he was a sensei. And so after the service up there, we have our age, and they're gun collectors, right? So they have these guns, and one of them, he has this, like a Japanese anti-aircraft gun, this huge thing that he shows, and he makes bullets for and is able to shoot. So you want to go shooting, and it's really something special for anyone from Japan, particularly ministers. Oh, sure, okay. And it's kind of a rainy, not quite rainy, but drizzly day, and they're in their suit and tie. Right after service, they're going to go to Boise and jump on an airplane to come home. And so, but our members, 2 of them, gun collectors, they're prepared for everything. They bought brand new blue tarps, and so they spread them out so the senseis could lay down on the ground and aim their guns, and even though they're in their suits. And so about 6 of us went out there, 7 of us, and taking turns shooting at cans or whatever out there placed, and they really had a good time. And so, for them to go through that, I'm telling them that the new people, we had this kind of occasion with another IMOP student, and the young lady says, "Oh, I know Nanjo Sensei." And I thought that was funny, so it didn't hit me. I wasn't, how do you know Nanjo? Oh, he's one of the teachers at my school in Tokyo. Okay, so I did, apparently this guy grew up, right? And so now he's a researcher, lecturer, and he is an adjunct professor at Musashino college in Tokyo or something like that. And after she told me that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I saw an article from Nanjo Sensei. And then I looked up Nanjo Sensei and I saw he's the one that has these ghost stories, right? So, oh, how cool. And so I thought, let me share these ghost stories with the members. You know, we don't believe in superstition. And these are kind of superstitious tales, right? So how does this fit in? And in his paper, his presentation, he's talking about how in these Jodo Shinshu areas in Japan, they have such stories that have been passed on for centuries and centuries. And they even have the specific temple identifies with that story. They have scrolls, painted image of the ghost, you know, flying towards the Pure Land kind of thing. These scrolls that are painted and other artwork that depict these stories. And so the people of the area, the village, they all know these stories and share them with whoever comes. Other people come from the other areas and they know that this is the temple with the ghost story. And so they come to identify. And so his point was that even with these kind of stories that are like not true to our teachings necessarily, but they touch the imagination and the hearts and minds of those people in that area, and they last for generations and generations and generations. So even this, that they identify as being Jodo Shinshu Buddhist through these stories, not necessarily because they're true, but because they connect with them. And so he's making this point that this becomes a very powerful way to be able to share the identity of being Shin Buddhist, Nembutsu followers in this way. And so he used these two stories as examples. But when you go to different areas of Japan, there are different similar kind of stories. You know, you wonder, how does this fit into what I'm learning in Buddhism? How does this fit in with this Nembutsu practice? And you know, I'm sure we wonder as I'm telling this story. Cool story, but what the heck, right? How does it fit? How does it fit? But you know, so many things got tied together with little Nanjo Sensei becoming a professor and trying to see how these stories, you know, I'm sure he came across a young man throughout Japan, hearing these stories, learning about different temples, hearing from relatives that these kind of things are shared. So I thought it was a wonderful thing that we don't normally, we're just not able to hear of such things. So thank you for letting me share this story, the ghost stories today. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your message, Sensei. I actually have a spirit story, and I don't call them ghosts, but a spirit. But when I was in college, in the middle of the night, something was grabbing onto my body, and I got very scared. And then the person said, "It's Oba-chan, my grandma." And so I said, "Oh," so I was just kind of cuddling her. And then in the middle of the morning, really early, my mom called that my grandma had passed away during the night. And I believe that was my grandma holding on to me, maybe afraid just to let go. So it was a real it hit my heart. But and then years later, I had another dream about her, and I woke up and it was her birthday. So I feel like even if people pass, their spirits are still with us all the time. Cool, that's my little... Anyway, Please stand for the Ondok-san on page 220 in the purple book.
Namo Amidos. Namo Amidos. Namanda, Namanda.
Please be seated. Thank you to all the people who helped set everything up. The flower group, I don't know if Dorothy helped with flowers, but the flowers and people who donated foods, and of course, thank you, Sensei, for setting all of this up for YouTube. And before we close, do we have any new people here today? I think so. And if so, you want to stand and introduce yourselves?
I'm Calvin. I'm not quite new. I used to come here a lot as a kid, but I haven't gone in a few years. So I haven't gone since Reverend Taniguchi was here.
Oh, okay.
My name is Paradise.
Okay, thank you for coming. Let's see, do we have any announcements? I see that all the bags are filling up for the clothing drive. So, again, I think there's, when is it? I think next Friday you can also drop off clothing drive. And thank you, Karen, for arranging all of this. Thank you.
So we're collecting today until 1, technically till 4, but 1. And Friday is 11 to 4.
So if you have anything to drop off, you can come to well, actually, you could just drive through and we'll pick up the bags on Friday between 11 and 1. Okay. Yes? Sensei, we have a Ask Reverend Dennis kind of program, and any questions you have about Buddhism, you can ask Reverend Dennis, and he can try to clarify some things. I have one, Sensei. I often hear people talk about bachi, and they talk about you did something bad, so something bad came back to you. And I think I need that clarified because he said it's not really that in Buddhism.
Right.
Bachi.
Yeah. I think that falls in the realm of superstition, so we don't really consider that. You hear that a lot when you're young. Older members or your parents or auntie will say, "Bachi ga ataru." You know, if you do something bad will happen to you, and it's a way to control your bratty little kids, basically. You know, you want to get them in line. So, you know, to have them reconsider what they're doing and the reasons why, so they don't cause problems for themselves or for other people. So basically, it's like that. We hear lots of similar things, like bad things happen in threes, you know, and so 2 things happen and you're just waiting for that third one, right? So, yeah, kind of in the realm of superstition. So, just to clarify, it's been scheduled at the fourth Sunday of each month. We're going to try to do this Ask Reverend Dennis sessions, and so it's a comfortable way to ask questions live, or you can send it to me in email form, and if you don't want to speak up during the session, so we can do this. But before I get a question, let me tell you one last ghost story, because I've been here about 7 years, and when I first came, I was told we have a ghost here at this temple, and a few different people told me that, and so I've been on the lookout. But I told them, if I see the ghost, I'm putting them to work. So either the ghost is avoiding me or flew off to the Pure Land. So. Okay, did we have a hand raised? Yes. You might have to remove your mask so I could hear your question.
He once told me that Buddhists don't pray, they meditate. What is the difference between prayer and meditation? Because oftentimes I think of praying, and just comes, like that one.
Okay, so to reiterate, the question is, we often say here that Buddhists don't pray, but we meditate. And so what is the difference between prayer and meditation? And it kind of depends. It's, how you define each one, and they probably have similarities. So I think we do pray, but in the sense that we don't pray is that we don't ask for things. We don't do petitionary prayer. That's what it's called. Oh, please let me have a brand new car. Oh, please let me pass my final exam so I can get a raise. Oh, please let me have a son and not a daughter, or whatever you might want to pray for, wish for. This is kind of like wishful thinking. Petitionary prayer is something you personally want to have to gain for yourself. So this kind of prayer we don't do, right? Yes?
So let's say, you know someone that's ill, and you want to send, you want to spiritually send them, good thoughts. So is that considered, can you say, we'll pray for you? That's a common expression. Would that work in the Buddhist perspective?
I think the difficulty is that you think you have the power to do something in a positive manner, that you're sending prayer. I'm sending to this person something special. And kind of the basic look is, I don't have that strength, I don't have that power. And the Shin Buddhist perspective is, I receive that strength, that gift of life, or whatever we have, the air we breathe, the water we drink, all of these things are received. And so in that sense, when we say Namo Amida Butsu, we're appreciative of having been able to receive and to have that life. At the same time, when someone is feeling badly or maybe ill, you wish them well. You wish they can have positive things, and in the sense of sharing your positivity, that happens a lot. I never say myself, I will pray for you, but I can tell them, I hope you have positive changes in your condition. More to that effect, that I'm not the one that's going to make a difference, right? So, but to send your own good wishes, there's nothing wrong with that. Right? Nothing wrong with that. You want to, especially when someone is having a difficult time, you want to have some positivity to share, and that's out of compassion and consideration. So certainly that's understandable, I think. Yeah. Anybody else have their own perspective on that? Thoughts to share? Oh, no? Okay. I do have a few others, okay. One question was asked that we often hear, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And they were wondering, what does this mean? Because we always say, quite often, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. And so this is, in our practice, there's always a lot of self-reflection to consider, my own condition. And so the brighter the light means the light of wisdom, the light of the Buddha. Because of this light, I'm able to see the shadows of my own existence. And sometimes we don't really want to acknowledge that, So I might do some bad things, but heck, I'm not as bad as George over there. You want to talk about someone bad, talk about George. What he did last week, and we compare ourselves to others, and we make it relative, and then we make it okay. And this is all kind of that calculating mind that we have as people, and we're always kind of calculating. And so for us to reflect, then we can notice, I am like that. I do calculate. I do compare and try to think of myself in a favorable way. And this realization, this understanding is coming because of the light of truth, the light of wisdom. So through this light, my shadow becomes more evident. So that's the meaning of the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Okay? And, so I have a couple more questions, thoughts that have been sent through, and I would like to go through them. And I think they came from the 850th, 800th service that we all went to in Palo Alto, and all the ministers came in. We all had our full robes, white robes, and so we came in, and so it was noticed that we have different colored robes for different occasions, and what is the meaning of these different colored robes? Okay, so in that instance, there were the white robes. I wear those same robes when I do a wedding, for example. Okay, and it would be not appropriate for a funeral or a memorial service. Okay. Last week was Ohigan, so we acknowledged the equinox, spring and fall equinox, and that's not a memorial, so I had orange robes on. Okay, just a different color. Not everyone has different colored robes, but this one was given to me, so I wear it on special occasions. So black, orange, white. The white one is considered a colored robe in Japan, and so if I were in Japan, I would probably not be able to wear the white robe. There has to be a certain setting, maybe a certain rank for you to wear a colored robe. Okay, so ministers have received and wear on occasion different colored robes. This one is not the elaborate one, very simple. It's called a fuho, and this is usually black, and it's considered a work robe. So you might see sensei outside wearing this robe, sweeping the walkway before a service or something like that, right? It's just a work robe, but you should be wearing the robe when you're doing something up here on the altar setting. And so there's a temple called Tsukichi Honganji in Tokyo. It's a major temple, and they do new and refreshing and innovative things. So a few years ago, maybe 5 years now, they decided to have a fashion show, right? So they had the runway and everything, and ministers were wearing different colored robes, different styles and things. And so, wow, that's cool, right? So very nice robes, nothing I could afford myself. But there was kind of a movement to have colored robes a little more available. And these basic robes were done in kind of a earthy green, and there's a blue and different colors that were available. And Kobata Sensei, who was in San Francisco, has since retired, but he went to Japan and checked out, and he came back with this blue fuho, blue robe, you know. And I think one of the first comments he got is, "What are you are you in the choir?" You know, so he looked like kind of a choir member, so kind of popped his balloon there, and he tried to look special in his blue robes there. And I remember being in Japan, there were these other, we were just the students, but some of the teachers, they would walk in front of us as we're going somewhere. It's beautiful, just this fuho, but it's made out of silk, right? So it's just flowing behind us, how it falls on the body. So wow. And ours are like, what is that called? Polyester, right? So it looks a little bit different. So, wow, those silk ones are really nice, but out of my range. So, yeah, so there's lots of different kind of robe stories, but yeah, you're able to see more and more. And I think last week I mentioned that Bishop, he had a different robe altogether, right? All the more elaborate. And he had a 7-panel okesa rather than our 5-panel okesa. So there's a lot of differences, and they have a lot to do with rank and occasion. Okay. And another thing that happened during that session was we had this reading called Our Pledge. And we read it in English and in Japanese. I have a couple minutes, so I'm going to read it. Some of you were not there. And we all read in English, and then it was recited in Japanese. The English: breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha, who tirelessly works to liberate all. And then we recite Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And this reading was provided by the Gomonshu from Japan, the head of our mother temple in Kyoto, Japan. And so he wrote this in English and Japanese and sent it to all our temples, and probably throughout the world, even in Brazil, Canada, Hawaii. And so we received these. And so just like we read the 3 treasures, we have the option to read this here at our temples. And for me, I don't like it. Because the end of each stanza, just like the kind Buddha, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha, and makes the Buddha sound like a deity, right? As a human being. And we spend so much time telling people the Buddha, Amida Buddha, is a symbol of truth and reality, not a deity, not a deity. And we say this till we turn blue. And then we have this other reading that kind of, to me, contradicts what we're trying to convey at our temples. And so it makes it more confusing than less. These are very nice words, you know, and how we should behave. But to end it, to behave like the Buddha, it doesn't fit the way I try to convey Buddhism here at the temples I am at. Okay, so this is the reason I try not to read that particular reading. Okay, so I think we're out of time. I have other questions, and it's good to have some extra questions for when people are real quiet days. But anytime at all that we have questions for Ask Reverend Dennis, it is easy way to ask questions, and if you're shy, send them ahead of time. I'm happy to share them, and usually I make sure the person who asked is here so they can listen to the response. And on YouTube, this might be the first time we're doing this, so added attraction on the fourth Sundays that we have these videos for you. Okay, so with this we will close. Do you have more words? Amy will close this.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this morning's service. I think Reverend Fujimoto will now say a few closing words.
No, I just did that. I'm going to light the incense, and then you can all come up and offer incense. Okay.